Hello, wanderer, it's Ufan. Come in. Tonight, I'm going to try something that shouldn't work, telling you a story from a man who believed language could never truly reach the truth, and somehow using his words to help you fall asleep. Before we're done, you may learn what the old master meant when he said, "The way that can be named is not the eternal way." Or you might drift off somewhere around the yak crossing. Both outcomes are correct. I knew a boy once, 17 years old, who spent an entire summer alone at a monastery in the mountains. No phone, no friends, no modern conveniences, just stone and silence and altitude. He came back different in a way he couldn't quite explain. I've thought about that ever since. Tonight I think I finally understand what happened to him up there. Let's begin. The path down into the valley begins where the road ends. You have been walking since before the light was fully itself, since that particular grey hour when the sky and the land are the same color and the world hasn't quite committed to being awake yet. Your pack sits against your lower back with the comfortable weight of something you've carried long enough to stop noticing. Your boots know this kind of ground. Loose stone at the top, firming to packed earth as the path descends, the occasional flat slab of grey rock worn smooth by 10,000 feet that came before yours. Breathe in. The air here is different from the air below. Thinner, yes, you felt that the first day, that faint reaching quality your lungs had, as though looking for something they were used to finding easily. But you've adjusted now. The thinness has become a kind of clarity. Each breath feels like it counts for something. Breathe out slowly. The valley opens below you as you descend. You've seen it from above for the last hour of walking, a long green fold between two ridges, the river running through the center of it like a thought that refuses to leave. From up here, the water looks still. You know it isn't. You can hear it even from this distance, a low continuous sound like the world reminding itself of something. The light is going, not dramatically, not the way storms take light, all at once and with intention. This is the Tibetan dusk, which has its own particular patience. The sun drops behind the western ridge, and the valley fills with a blue that isn't quite shadow and isn't quite color. The snow on the peaks above holds the last of the orange for a while longer. You watch it as you walk. That orange light on white snow against a deepening blue sky, there is no adequate word for that combination. You've stopped trying to find one. Let your shoulders drop just slightly. The path switchbacks twice before it reaches the valley floor, and on the second turn you see the monastery for the first time. Not close, maybe a kilometer upstream, its ochre walls catching the last of the light. Low and deliberate against the hillside, as though it grew there rather than was built. A few lights in the upper windows. Wood smoke rising straight up in the still air, which means no wind tonight. That's a gift up here. You're not going to the monastery tonight. You've been walking toward it for 3 days and you'll arrive tomorrow. Tonight you'll stop here at the river's edge, where a flat shelf of stone makes a natural resting place and a stand of low willows offers a windbreak that you won't need but are glad is there anyway. Your pack comes off your shoulders with a sound, not quite a sigh, more like a release. You set it against the largest stone and stand for a moment with your hands on your lower back. feeling the length of the day in your muscles. This is a good ache, the kind that means you did something real with your body. You let yourself feel it without rushing past it. Now sit, not cross-legged, not formally, just sit the way a person sits at the end of a real day, legs out in front of you, back against your pack, facing the river. Let the ground take your weight. It's been taking weight like yours for longer than you can imagine, and it will continue long after tonight. You can trust it to do that. The river is maybe 15 feet from where you sit. Up close, it is nothing like it looked from the ridge. From above, it seemed like a line, a feature of the landscape, something a topographer would draw with a single stroke. Down here, it is a living argument. The water moves in at least 4 different directions at once, the main current pushing downstream, eddies spinning backward near the banks, upwellings from somewhere deeper that disturb the surface in circles, and underneath all of it a deep pull that you can't see but can feel if you watch long enough. The river is not doing one thing. The river is doing everything at once and calling it water. Let your breath follow the current for a moment. In with the flow of it, the downstream pull. Out slowly, the way the water eases at the edges, finding the quiet places near the bank. There is a sound the river makes that you can't source. It's not the splash of water over rock, though there's that too, further upstream where the channel narrows. It's not the deep pull of the main current, though you can hear that as a kind of undertone. It's something in between, a continuous soft percussion, like the river is in conversation with itself and has been for so long that the conversation has become a single long sentence without punctuation. You don't need to understand it, you just need to hear it. Your eyes are adjusting to the dropping light. The water darkens as the sky darkens. It was green-gray an hour ago. Now it's shifting towards something deeper, a blue-black that catches the last skylight on its surface in moving patches. Every few seconds a new patch of light catches, holds for a moment and releases. Catches, holds, releases. You watch this without deciding to watch it. Your eyes just follow what moves. There is a monastery upstream and you will reach it tomorrow. I've never been to a monastery. I've driven past two. Both times I kept driving. I think I was afraid that if I stopped and went inside, something would be expected of me that I wasn't ready to give. Maybe you know that feeling. Tonight there is just this. You think, briefly, the way thoughts arrive when you're too tired to argue with them, about everything you've been carrying into sleep lately. Not the pack on your back, the other weight. The thing that's been making your mind run laps in the dark. You know the one. It arrives reliably around 2 in the morning, fully formed, with opinions. I've been carrying something too lately. I won't tell you what it is. This isn't my story, it's yours. But I will tell you, it's been sitting on my chest at 3 in the morning and asking questions I don't have answers for. So if you're awake right now, carrying something similar, you're not alone in this room. The river doesn't respond to this thought. It just keeps moving. And there's something in that, something you notice without quite being able to name yet. The river has no opinion about your 2 o'clock problem. The river has no opinion about anything. It moves because moving is what water does when the ground slopes and gravity exists. It doesn't decide to flow. It doesn't try to reach anywhere. The sea is not a goal. The sea is just what happens when water keeps doing what water does. You've been trying to solve something, haven't you? Not just tonight. For a while now. There's something you've been turning over and over in the way you turn a stone in your hand, looking at it from every angle, sure that the next angle will reveal the answer. The river doesn't do that. The river doesn't pick up stones and examine them. The river moves around stones, under them, eventually, given enough time, through them, not by force, by returning, by being water against stone every single day until the stone becomes a different shape. Let that thought sit for a moment without chasing it. Your eyes have found a particular point on the water, a place where the current splits around a half-submerged rock and comes back together on the other side. The water that divides comes back together, every time. The rock doesn't win. The rock just is, and the water just is, and their relationship over time tells a story that neither of them is trying to tell. The light is almost gone now. You should probably make a fire. You have everything you need. A small bundle of dry brush, a lighter, the flat stone to contain it. But you find you don't want to do anything yet. You want to sit here in the remaining light and watch the river for just a little longer. There is nothing requiring your attention. The monastery will be there tomorrow. The path will be there in the morning. Right now there is only the river and the darkening valley and the sound that doesn't stop. Feel your legs against the ground. The stone is cold now, not uncomfortably, just present. You can feel the specific shape of the rock beneath you, its unevenness, the way your weight has settled into it over the last several minutes and found a kind of equilibrium. Your body has been making small adjustments you didn't notice. The slight lean of your right shoulder, the way your head has dropped just a degree or two forward. Your body knows how to rest. It has always known. You just have to stop instructing it. Breathe in the river air, cold and clean and carrying something mineral from high up, from the snowmelt that feeds this water, from altitudes where nothing lives. Breathe out longer than the in-breath, the way a long day breathes out at its end. A bird crosses the water upstream, low, direct, purposeful in the way small birds are purposeful just before dark, going somewhere, specific, already gone. The river received the shadow of its wings and released it in the same moment. You think about the monastery again. You've heard various things about the monks who live there, that they rise before dawn, that their days are shaped by prayer and silence and the kind of work that keeps hands busy while the mind goes quiet, sweeping stone courtyards, carrying water, tending whatever small things need tending at altitude, that some of them have been inside those walls for decades, whole lives contained within a single hillside, the same bells, the same river you're listening to now. You've wondered, in the weeks since you decided to make this journey, what that would actually feel like. To want so little, to find everything you need within a radius you could walk in 20 minutes. You're not sure you could do it, but sitting here in the last of the Tibetan light, with your back against your pack and the river in front of you, and nothing requiring your attention until morning, you find you're not entirely sure. You couldn't either The fire can wait a few more minutes. The river is saying something and you want to keep listening, even though you know, with the honest part of your mind, the part that doesn't dress things up, that the river isn't actually saying anything at all. It's just water moving downhill, gravity and snow melt and the particular shape of this valley. There's no message in it. And yet, there is something about sitting in front of something that doesn't need you, that was here before you arrived and will be here long after you leave, that loosens something in the chest, some grip you didn't know you were maintaining. The river doesn't need you to understand it. The river doesn't need anything from you, and in not needing anything from you, it gives you something that people rarely give each other: complete permission to simply be here as you are, without performing or explaining or improving. You can just be a person sitting by a river in Tibet at the end of a long day. That's enough. That is, it turns out, quite a lot. You make the fire, small and practical, contained within its ring of stones. The dry brush catches immediately, and the kindling you've been carrying takes the flame without argument. The warmth reaches your face before you expect it to, and you lean into it slightly, the way you lean into any unexpected kindness. The fire and the river together make a particular music, the crackle of one, the continuous low note of the other. Between them they fill the space where your thoughts usually rush in. There is room, suddenly, for nothing in particular. You lean back against your pack and look up. The stars here are not like stars anywhere else you've been. The altitude and the dry air and the distance from any city combine to produce a sky that feels closer than it should, as though the usual distance between you and everything else has been quietly reduced while you weren't paying attention. Stars behind stars behind stars. Your eyes grow heavy, not the heavy of fighting sleep, the heavy of not needing to fight anymore. There's a difference. You've been living in the fighting version for a while now, that tense, grinding wakefulness that comes from trying to make your body do something your mind won't permit. This is the other kind, the kind that comes when you've walked far enough and sat still long enough and the body simply remembers what it was built for. Breathe in all the way. Let your chest rise and your belly soften and the breath go all the way down to the place below your ribs that you've been holding tight without realizing it. Let it go there. Let it fill that space. Hold it. Just for a moment. Feel the fullness of it, the cold high air, the faint smell of wood smoke, the particular aliveness of a body that has been used well today and is now, finally, coming to rest. Breathe out. Slowly, all of it. The whole day. Let it move through you the way water moves around a stone, not erasing anything, just passing. Through, just returning to the flow. The fire settles. A log shifts and sends up a brief scatter of sparks that rise and cool and disappear long before they've gone very far. You watch this with the attention of someone who has stopped trying to think and started simply noticing. There is a difference between those two things. You've been confusing them for longer than you'd like to admit. Noticing doesn't require anything of you. It's the one thing you can do without effort. The monastery lights are visible upstream. warm and small against the dark hillside. Tomorrow you will walk there. Tonight you will sleep here, by this river that doesn't need anything from you, in this valley that had a name long before anyone alive today was born to use it. You are right where you are supposed to be. That boy I mentioned, the 17-year-old. When he came back from his summer in the mountains, someone asked him what he did up there all day. He thought about it for a long time. Then he said, mostly I just watched things. The light, the water, the way the monks moved through the courtyard in the morning. He said it was the first time in his life he'd stopped waiting for something to happen. I think about that a lot. The first time he'd stopped waiting. He was 17. Some of us are still learning. The river is the last thing you hear before your eyes close. Not the last thing you notice. You notice the warmth of the fire on your left side, the cold air on your right, the particular weight of your arms resting at your sides, hands open, fingers uncurled. You notice the ground beneath you, solid and old and completely indifferent to your presence in the best possible way. You notice the slow expansion and release of your own breathing, which has found a rhythm without being asked to. But the river is the last thing you hear. That low continuous note, that conversation the water is having with itself, that sound that has no beginning and will have no end within any time frame that matters to you tonight. It was here before your boots touched this valley floor. It will be here when you open your eyes tomorrow. Right now it is simply here, and so are you, and that is the whole of what tonight requires. The stars wheel slowly overhead. The fire breathes down to embers. The river runs on and on and on, through the dark, through the valley, toward whatever comes next, not hurrying, not hesitating, not carrying anything it wasn't given, not holding anything it was meant to release. Just moving, just being water. Just doing the only thing it has ever needed to do. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the river carry the rest.
You don't know what wakes you, not a sound exactly, or not a wrong sound. The river is still there, still running its long, unbroken sentence through the dark. The fire has burned down to a low pulse of orange at the center of the stone ring, still warm, still present. The stars are where you left them. Everything is as it was, and yet something has shifted in the quality of the night. You lie still for a moment, the way you've learned to lie still in unfamiliar places, not tense, just attending, listening past the river for whatever it was that surfaced you. Your sleeping bag is warm. The ground beneath you is the same ground it was when you closed your eyes. Your breath makes a small cloud in the cold air and disappears. Then you see him, on the far bank, maybe 20 feet across the water. A monk is standing at the river's edge, saffron robes, a heavy outer wrap against the cold, head shaved and bare in the mountain air. He is completely still. Not in the way of someone who has just arrived and is deciding what to do next, but in the way of someone who has been still for so long that stillness has become the natural condition of his body. He is looking at the water. He is not looking at you. You watch him for a while without moving. There is nothing alarming about his presence. Something about the quality of his stillness makes alarm feel like the wrong instrument entirely. He is simply there, the way the willows are there, the way the stones are there, an element of the night that you somehow missed before. After a while, you couldn't say how long. Time works differently out here in the dark. He looks up, not at you specifically, at the far bank, at this side of the river. His gaze is unhurried and general, the gaze of someone who is not looking for anything in particular and so is free to see everything. Then he sees you. There is a pause. Not awkward. Nothing about this man suggests awkwardness is something he has much experience with. Just a pause. The way you pause when you notice a deer in a field. Acknowledgement without alarm. Recognition without assumption. He lifts one hand, a small gesture, not a wave exactly, something quieter than a wave, the kind of gesture that says, I see you there, that's all, I see you. You raise your own hand in return. He stands for another moment. Then, with the same unhurried quality that seems to govern every movement he makes, he begins to walk upstream along the far bank, not away, parallel, following the way the river follows the valley, which is to say without apparent decision, without visible effort, moving the way things move when they're not fighting anything. You sit up. Your body does this before you've made a conscious choice about it. Some older part of you has already decided that sleep is finished for now and that this, whatever this is worth being awake for. You pull your jacket over your shoulders and move closer to the embers, close enough to feel the warmth without blocking whatever small light they're still giving. Upstream, maybe 50 feet, there is a place where the river narrows and the water is shallower. You noticed it when you made camp, thought briefly that it might be a crossing point. The monk reaches it, pauses for a moment assessing the water, then steps in. The cold must be, you don't want to think about the cold, mountain river in the dark. He crosses in 8 or 10 careful steps, the water no higher than his shins, and steps out on your side. He shakes his feet once, pulls his robe straight, and continues walking toward your fire as though this were entirely ordinary, which perhaps for him it is. He stops a few feet from the embers, looks at you. Up close he is older than you'd guessed from across the water, the kind of age that doesn't announce itself loudly, but is simply present in the face. Deep lines around the eyes that have the particular quality of eyes that have spent a great deal of time looking at mountains and rivers and fires and have learned over that time to receive what they see without commentary. He gestures at the ground beside your fire. A question. You nod. He sits, not with the careful lowering of someone whose body has complaints, but with the ease of someone who has spent so many hours seated on stone floors that the ground is simply where he belongs. He tucks his outer wrap around him and looks at the embers, and for a while neither of you says anything. This doesn't feel strange. That's the strange part. It doesn't feel strange at all.
I don't know when I lost the ability to sit quietly with someone I don't know. At some point, it became a problem to be solved. Silence with a stranger means someone needs to say something, ask something, feel it. I'm working on unlearning that. Some people are just comfortable in silence. They are not being rude, they are being honest. I think there's a difference. The monk reaches into the folds of his robe and produces, of all things, a small thermos. He pours something into the cup of the lid and holds it out toward you. Butter tea. You've heard about it. You've been warned about it, depending on who was doing the warning. You take the cup. It's warm in your hands in a way that goes deeper than temperature. The particular warmth of something that was made for cold places by people who understand cold in their bones. You drink.
It tastes like nothing you've had before. Salt and fat, and something smoky, and underneath all of it, something you can't identify, something that belongs to altitude and monasteries, and the particular combination of those two things. You finish it and hand back the cup. He pours another for himself and drinks. You walk to the monastery, he says, not a question. His English is careful and precise, each word placed with deliberate attention, the way you'd place your feet on an uncertain path. Tomorrow, you say. Tonight I stopped here. He nods, looks at the river. The river is good company, he says. It doesn't ask anything of you, you say, and then wonder why you said it. It came out without editing, without the usual social review. He looks at you. Something in the look suggests this is not a statement he finds unusual. No, he says, it does not. The embers shift. A small collapse at the center, a brief brightening, then the slow return to that deep orange pulse. You couldn't sleep, he says. I was asleep, you say. Something woke me. He considers this. Sometimes we wake because we are finished sleeping. Sometimes we wake because we are not finished thinking. He pauses. These are different problems. You look at him. How do you tell them apart? He is quiet for a moment. Not the quiet of someone searching for an answer. The quiet of someone deciding whether the answer is useful or just true. These are, you're beginning to understand, different considerations. When you are finished sleeping, he says, the body is ready. It wants to move, to begin. When you are not finished thinking, he stops, gestures at the space between you and the river. There is something here, something that did not leave when you closed your eyes. You don't say anything, because he's right and you both know it, and saying so would be redundant. He pours the last of the tea into the lid and offers it to you. You shake your head. He drinks it himself, slow and unhurried, and then tucks the thermos away. You carry something, he says, not unkindly, the way a doctor names a thing, not to alarm, just to be accurate. Everyone carries something, you say. Yes, he agrees. This is true. The question is not whether you carry it. The question is, he pauses again, looks at the river, whether you chose it or whether it simply accumulated.
That word stopped me when I first heard it used this way. Accumulated, like dust, like interest on a debt you didn't know you'd taken out. Most of the things I carry I never consciously picked up. I just kept moving and they kept attaching. I think that's probably true for most of us. The question of whether you chose it, that's the one that changes things. You look at the river. You've been looking at it all evening, since you came down from the ridge and found this flat shelf of stone and set your pack down and sat. You've been looking at it the way you look at something when you're really thinking about something else. But now you look at it differently. The monk's words have shifted something in the way it appears, not the water itself, which is unchanged, indifferent, moving as it has always moved, but the way you're receiving it. The river didn't choose its cargo. The river carries whatever falls into it. Silt from the mountains, leaves from the willows, cold from the glaciers far above. It doesn't evaluate what it receives. It doesn't decide this is worth carrying
and this is not. It takes everything and moves, and in the moving, leaves most of it along the banks, deposits it in the shallows, releases it to the riverbed. By the time the water reaches the lowlands, it is not carrying what it carried at the source. Not because it decided to let things go, but because that is simply what water does when it keeps moving. I didn't choose most of it, you say, and your voice sounds different to you, quieter, more honest than you intended. The monk nods slowly. No, most people do not. So how do you stop? The question is harder to finish than you expected. He waits. How do you put it down, you say finally, if you didn't choose to pick it up? He is quiet for a long time. The river fills the silence without effort. Then he says something that you will think about for a long time after tonight. You do not put it down, he says. You notice that you are holding it. That is the first step, only the first. But it is the one most people never take. They carry and never once stop to look at what is in their hands. You look at your hands. They are resting open in your lap, palms up, the way hands rest when a body is finally genuinely at ease. You didn't place them that way. Your body did that on its own somewhere in the last hour while you were looking at the river. Open, empty, receiving the firelight. What do the monks do? You ask. In the monastery. Is that what the practice is? Learning to see what you're carrying. He tilts his head slightly. The practice is many things. But underneath all of it, he pauses, and you get the sense he is translating not just language but something more fundamental. Underneath all of it, we practice returning to the breath, to the present moment, to what is actually here, rather than what the mind insists is here. What's the difference? He looks at you steadily. What is actually here tonight? He says. Right now. This fire, this river, this cold, this conversation. That is what is here. He pauses. What does the mind insist is here? You know exactly what the mind insists is here. You've known all evening. The thing that arrives at 2 in the morning. The thing you've been turning over like a stone. The thing that accumulated without your permission and has been sitting on your chest ever since. Something from a different time, you say. Yes, he says. Usually it is. Usually the thing we carry belongs to yesterday or tomorrow. Rarely to now. He looks at the fire. The monks who struggle most when they first arrive, they are not lazy or faithless. They are simply very good at being somewhere other than where they are. The practice is learning to come back, again and again, back to the breath, back to this moment, back to what is real. It sounds simple, you say. He smiles. The first smile you've seen from him, small and warm and knowing. It sounds simple, he agrees. Like the river sounds simple. From the ridge, you sit with that for a while. The fire has dropped low. The embers are more dark than light now, though the warmth still reaches you if you lean forward slightly. The monk shows no sign of cold. You've noticed this, the ease with which he sits in the mountain night. No shivering, no tucking himself smaller, as though the cold is simply weather, and weather is simply what exists, and what exists is fine. Can I ask you something? You say. He waits. Do you ever still carry things? After all the practice, after however long you've been doing this. You pause. Does it ever fully go away? He considers this with the same seriousness he's given everything else. He doesn't reach for reassurance. You appreciate that. The carrying does not go away, he says. We are human beings. We are built to attach. This is not a flaw. It is how love works, how memory works, how we remain connected to our lives. He pauses. What the practice changes is not what you carry. It changes how you carry it, whether it carries you or you carry it, whether you are aware that it is there. Another pause, and whether in moments like this one, by a river, in the dark, when nothing is required of you, you can set it down. Not forever, just for now, just for the length of a breath, just for the length of a breath. You breathe in the cold air, the wood smoke, the mineral scent of the river, all of it arriving without complication. You breathe out slowly, the way the river eases at the banks, the way a hand opens when it stops dripping. The monk watches the embers. You watch the river. For a while, neither of you says anything, and the silence has the quality of something shared rather than something endured. You are two people sitting by a dying fire beside a Tibetan river in the dark, and neither of you needs to be anywhere else, and nothing needs to be solved before morning. And the thing you've been carrying is still there. You can feel its familiar weight, but for this moment, for the exact length of this breath, you are not fighting it. You are just here. That is enough. That boy I knew, the one who spent the summer at the monastery. I think I understand now what he found up there. Not answers, not some grand revelation that explained everything. He found a place where nothing was required of him except to be present. And he was 17, so he didn't even know that was rare. He just came back quieter, more at ease in silence, more willing to let a moment be what it was without immediately asking it to be something more. I think about the gift of that, being that young and learning that early. Some of us are still finding our way to the river. You don't know when the monk leaves. At some point you have drifted, not asleep exactly, but to that soft borderland where the body is heavy and the mind has gone quiet, and the sounds of the night have become something you're floating in rather than listening to. The river, the last breath of the embers, the occasional shift of stone somewhere up on the ridge, high above. When you surface enough to look, he is gone. The far bank is empty. The crossing point upstream shows no trace of passage. The thermos is gone. The cup. Even his impression in the ground beside the fire is hard to make out in the dark. What remains is the river and the nearly dead fire and the cold and the stars and the particular quality of stillness that follows a real conversation. The kind where something was said that you'll still be thinking about in a week. You lie back. Your sleeping bag receives you. Your head finds the packed corner of your jacket. Your hands settle at your sides, open, palms upward, fingers uncurled. The thing you've been carrying is still there. But the monk was right. Right now, in this moment, you are aware of it rather than consumed by it. You can feel its weight, and you can also feel the ground beneath you taking your weight, and the night taking the ground, and the mountains taking the night. And somewhere in that sequence of things holding other things, your particular weight feels less singular, less like a problem and more like a condition of being alive. You are a person. You carry things. Tonight you are also lying beside a river in Tibet with stars overhead and a monastery waiting upstream and a long sleep waiting for you right here, right now, in this moment that belongs to nothing but itself. Breathe in all the way. The chest rising, the belly softening, the breath reaching that deep place below the ribs. Breathe out, let it go slowly, the whole length of it until the lungs are soft and empty and ready to begin again without being told. The river runs on. The stars turn their slow, indifferent wheel overhead. You are here, just this. The night has a different quality now. You couldn't explain it to someone who wasn't here. The darkness is the same darkness, the same stars, the same river, the same cold pressing gently down from the peaks. But somewhere in the hours since the monk crossed back to his own side of the water and disappeared into the dark, the night has shifted into a register you don't have a precise word for. Not silence. The river is still there, but a quality underneath the river's sound, underneath everything. The fire is out entirely now. Not even embers, just the faint warmth of recently occupied stone, which you can feel if you press your palm flat against the ground near the ring. It won't last much longer. That warmth will be gone by the time the first light comes. You are awake, but not urgently so. This matters. There is a version of lying awake at this hour, 3, maybe 4 in the morning, that particular dark hour that has no comfortable name, that is tense and resistant. The mind circling its concerns like a dog that can't find the right position. You know that version intimately. You've spent time in it. This is not that. This is something quieter, an awakeness that isn't fighting sleep, that isn't fighting anything. You are simply here, eyes open to the dark, body warm inside your sleeping bag mind, for once, for this rare and specific moment, genuinely still. You notice this without clutching at it. That's the trick, you think. The moment you notice you're peaceful and grab for it, try to hold it in place, examine it, it changes, like trying to hold fog. So you notice it and let it be what it is, and return your attention to the dark and the river and the cold air on your face, which is the only part of you exposed to the night. It is cold, cleanly, simply cold, mountain dark cold. The kind that makes the inside of your sleeping bag feel like an act of generosity. You breathe it in and the cold hits the back of your throat and it is nothing but cold. No metaphor in it, nothing it's trying to say, and you breathe it out and watch your breath make its small pale shape above you and disappear. Gone. The breath is gone. You made it and it left, and neither of those things required your help. Above you, the stars have moved. Not dramatically. Stars don't move dramatically. They move the way everything moves that you're not watching closely enough. In the hours since you lay down, the whole map of the sky has rotated some imperceptible number of degrees. The long sweep of the galaxy now slightly west of where it was, a handful of constellations you recognized earlier now tilted differently against the ridgeline. The sky doesn't know it's moving. This thought arrives without announcement and sits with you for a while. The sky doesn't know it's moving because the sky isn't doing anything. It simply is. The moving is a consequence of other things. The earth turning, the physics of large objects in space, forces that have been operating since long before anyone lay on a flat stone beside a Tibetan river and watched. The stars are not trying to move across the sky. They are not trying to do anything. They are simply what they are, and what they are includes this motion. And the motion is neither an effort nor an achievement. It just is. You think about the river. You've been thinking about the river all evening in one way or another, and now you think about it differently again. The third time the river has appeared to you tonight and meant something slightly different each time. Earlier it was a companion, a presence, a sound to follow. Then it was a teacher. Now it is simply itself. Water moving downhill, not trying to reach anything. Moving because moving is its nature, and its nature is sufficient, and sufficiency is all that is required. What is your nature? The question arrives quietly and without urgency, which is unusual. Usually, this kind of question arrives with a sense of emergency, a feeling that the answer is overdue and that not knowing it is a failure of some kind. But tonight, in this hour, the question is simply curious, genuinely interested, as though some part of you has relaxed enough to ask without already dreading the answer. What is your nature when you stop performing and stop managing and stop anticipating? You don't know, but you notice, and this is new. This is something the evening has given you, that not knowing doesn't feel like a problem right now. Not knowing feels like a space, an opening, the hollow of a bowl before anything is poured into it, the valley before the river arrived to fill it. Something is possible in that not knowing that isn't possible when you're busy being certain. I spent most of my 20s being certain, certain about who I was, what I wanted, what I believed. It felt like strength at the time. Looking back, I think it was armor. The not knowing, the genuine, comfortable not knowing, took a long time to arrive. I'm still practicing, but there's something on the other side of all that certainty. It's quieter there, and a little more honest. You shift slightly inside your sleeping bag, not from discomfort, just the natural small movement of a body finding its final position for the night. The wool lining brushes against the side of your neck, rough and warm and real, in a way that pulls you back from wherever your thoughts were going. You feel it, just that, the specific texture of wool against skin, the weight of the bag across your chest, the particular press of the ground along the length of your spine against the earth. You've been here all evening and only now. In this stillness do you feel it fully, the length of your own body, horizontal, held, not suspended. Held, the earth doesn't grip you, it simply receives you, the way it receives everything that comes to rest on it, without preference, without effort, without making any fuss about the fact that it has been doing this for longer than anything alive can remember. You let yourself be heavy. Not heavy the way worry is heavy, that pressing, shrinking weight that makes you smaller. Heavy the way rest is heavy. Heavy the way a stone is heavy at the bottom of a clear river, settled into its place, the current moving over it and around it, and the stone simply present, simply itself, neither going anywhere nor needing to. The birds are not singing. You notice this in the way you notice an absence, not immediately, but once you notice it, you feel it clearly. In the early evening there were birds, small ones, crossing the water with their particular purposefulness just before dark. But at this hour, this specific hour that belongs to neither night nor morning, there is no bird song. The valley holds a quality of silence that you have only encountered at altitude, a silence that is not simply the absence of sound, but has its own texture, dense, still, as though the air itself has gone quiet and is resting between its obligations. Even the river seems softer at this hour, still there, You can hear it, will always be able to hear it from this bank, but lower somehow, as though the water too has found a way to ease in the deep hours. The pitch has dropped, the urgency has left it. It moves now like something that has always known where it's going and has stopped rushing to get there. Breathe in, let the cold come all the way in. Feel it at the back of your throat, in the passages behind your nose, in the slight sharpness at the top of your lungs where the altitude still makes itself known. Clean and thin and mineral and real. Breathe out, watch the cloud your breath makes above you, pale in the dark, rising and dispersing before it's gone very far. There and gone, there and gone. The same thing every time and different every time, and neither of those facts requires your attention. You think about the monastery, not with anticipation exactly, or not only with anticipation, with something closer to curiosity. You have been walking toward it for 3 days, and tonight by the river you have had something, a conversation, an encounter, a set of thoughts that arrived because you were still long enough for them to find you. And tomorrow you will arrive at those walls and those bells and whatever daily life looks like inside a place built for precisely this kind of stillness. You wonder what the monk does in the morning, whether he will remember the stranger by the fire on the far bank, whether that kind of conversation is unusual for him or simply one of many, whether travelers stop by this river often, whether he crosses regularly, whether the thermos of butter tea is something he carries on these nighttime walks as a matter of course. You find you hope he won't remember you specifically. This surprises you, the thought arriving, and then the recognition that it's true. You hope this is ordinary for him. You hope crossing a mountain river in the dark to sit with a stranger by their fire and say true things quietly is just something he does. You hope there are many strangers and many fires and many quiet conversations in his life, and that yours was simply one of them, unremarkable, received and released the way the river receives and releases everything it carries. There is a gift in being ordinary to someone like that, in being one of many, in not being a project or a concern or a special case, just a person by a river carrying the usual things, needing the usual reminding. There's a phrase in Lao Tzu, the 10,000 things. It's his way of describing everything that exists. Every leaf, every stone, every person lying awake at 3 in the morning, every river, every worry, every small ordinary moment that doesn't get written down anywhere. The 10,000 things. And what he says about them is that they all arise and they all return. All of them without exception. The river returns to the sea. The breath returns to the air. The day returns to the dark, and the dark returns to the day. Tonight you are one of the 10,000 things, resting in your own time, in your own way. Returning, the sky begins. Not with drama, this is not a cinematic dawn with blazing colors and orchestral implications. This is a Tibetan mountain dawn, which means a very slow and subtle lightening at the eastern edge of the sky that you might miss if you weren't paying attention. The black becoming gray. The gray distinguishing itself from the black, the ridgeline acquiring a visible edge it didn't have an hour ago. The river changes. You can see it now where before you could only hear it. The water catches this first non-light, this pre-light, this promise of light, and gives it back in moving pieces. 1,000 small surfaces, each one briefly holding a scrap of grey-blue sky before releasing it and holding another. The river is doing what it has always done, and the new light simply reveals it. You have the distinct feeling that you are witnessing something that doesn't need witnesses. The valley would do this. The sky would lighten. The river would catch it. The monastery walls would begin to emerge from dark, whether you were here or not. This is not a performance. Nothing is being done for your benefit. The world is simply doing what the world does, and you happen to be here, awake and quiet, in a position to receive it. Can you just be here? Just this. A person in a sleeping bag on a flat stone beside a Tibetan river, watching the sky turn from black to grey, cold-nosed, warm-bodied, thoughts quiet, breath steady. Yes, right now, yes, the thing you've been carrying is still there. You knew it would be. The monk told you it would be, and you believed him, and the belief itself was a kind of relief. It is not going to be solved tonight. It is not going to dissolve in mountain air or river sound or one conversation with a stranger. It is yours. But tonight something has shifted in how you hold it. You are aware of it rather than consumed by it. You can feel its weight, and you can also feel it as separate from you, a thing you carry rather than a thing you are. There is more difference in that distinction than you've been able to see clearly until now. The river carries silt from the mountains. The silt is not the river. You carry this thing. The thing is not you. And tonight, in this cold pre-dawn, with the sky turning and the water catching light and the monastery walls beginning to emerge from the dark upstream, you are simply yourself, unadorned, unperforming, not trying to be more than what you are. Just a person, just here, just breathing. Let your eyes close. The sky will keep turning. The river will keep running, and you will sleep, not because you've solved anything, not because the weight has lifted, but because you are tired in the right way, and the ground is solid, and the night has been generous, and there is nothing, not one single thing, required of you between now and morning. Let the river carry it, just for tonight. Let the river carry all of it. And sleep. The sky is the color of something that doesn't have a name yet. Not gray, not blue, not the black it was an hour ago. Something in between all of those, something that exists only in the 20 minutes before the sun clears the eastern ridge and commits to being day. You have seen this color before in other places, and it has never looked exactly the same twice. Here in the valley, with the peaks on three sides and the river running through the center of it all, it has a quality of held breath. The world is about to do something, and it knows it, and it is taking its time. You are lying on your back. Your arms are at your sides, hands open, palms receiving whatever the morning is offering. Your breathing has settled into something so easy and regular that you can barely feel it happening, which is, you now understand, exactly how breathing is supposed to feel. Not labored, not deliberate, not a project. Just the body doing what the body was built to do, without supervision, without instruction, without your involvement at all. You've been trying to breathe your way to peace for longer than you'd like to admit. And tonight, not by trying, but by stopping trying, you found it. This is what the old master meant, not some technique or sequence of steps. not an instruction to follow. What he meant underneath all of it was this: there is a way of moving through the world that costs you very little because it works with the nature of things rather than against it. The river doesn't fight the mountain. The river finds the mountain's offer, the slope, the crack in the rock, the path of least resistance, and follows it, and in following it, gets where it's going. Not faster than fighting would take it, not dramatically or heroically, just there, eventually, without damage. You have been fighting your mountain. You know which one. You've known all evening since you sat down by this river and watched the water and felt the specific weight of what you've been carrying. You have been approaching it the way you approach most hard things, with force, with analysis, with the conviction that if you think about it hard enough and long enough and from enough angles, you will find the angle that breaks it open. The river doesn't do that. The river doesn't analyze the stone. The river touches the stone, returns to the stone, touches it again, not with force, with persistence, with the patient, daily, unremarkable persistence of water being water. And over time, not overnight, not in a single conversation by a fire, the stone changes, not because the river conquered it, because the river never stopped being itself. You don't have to conquer what you're carrying. You just have to keep being yourself, returning to yourself. Every time you drift into the fighting, every time you find yourself gripping the stone, turning it over, looking for the angle that will break it, you can return to the breath, to the present moment, to what is actually here rather than what the mind insists is here. This is not a solution. The thing you're carrying will still be there in the morning. It will probably be there next week. Some things are not solved. They are carried differently over time, worn smoother by living, changed in shape by the patient fact of you continuing to move through your life without letting them stop you. But here is what tonight has given you. You know the difference now between carrying something and being crushed by it. You know what it feels like to set it down, not permanently, not magically, but for the length of a night, for the length of a breath. You know that the ground can hold you, that the river can hold the sound, that the night can hold all the 10,000 things without straining, without complaint, without asking any of them to be lighter than they are. You are one of the 10,000 things. You are allowed to rest. The sky is lightening. The eastern ridge is acquiring an edge, sharp and dark against the growing grey gold behind it. In 20 minutes, maybe 30, the sun will clear that edge and the valley will change entirely. The river will go from dark to silver to green. The monastery walls will shift from shadow to their true ochre. The birds will begin. Everything will begin. But right now, in this last stretch of the night, everything is still. And in the stillness there is something the busy hours cannot hold. A clarity that comes only when there is nothing to do and nowhere to be and nothing required except the simple, sufficient act of being alive and present in the place where you are. You are in a valley in Tibet. You came here because something in you knew you needed to. You stopped at this river because your body told you it was time to stop. You met a monk by firelight, and he told you things that were true in the way that only simple things can be true, without decoration, without complication, straight to the place in you that already knew. And now the night is ending, and the day is coming, and you have slept and woken and slept again. And something in you that was tight has loosened, and something in you that was loud has gone quiet, and the question the evening asked, can you release what you were never meant to hold, has received its answer. Not released, not yet, perhaps not for a long time, but seen, recognized, Mehmed, gently in the dark. And that, the monk would tell you, and you believe him now, is the first step, the only step that opens the door to all the others. Let your eyes close for a little longer. The sun will still be there when you open them. Ufan speaking now. Just me. I want to sit beside you for a moment before we go all the way to quiet. I'm not going to tell you what the story meant. You were there. You felt the river. You sat with the monk. You watched the sky change. You don't need me to explain what you just lived through. What I want to say is simpler than that. I want to say, I know what it's like to carry something into the night and not be able to put it down. I know the specific exhaustion of a mind that won't stop working on a problem the body is desperate to leave alone. I've been there more times than I want to admit, and I am, if I'm being honest with you, which is the whole point of Ufan, which is the whole point of this. I'm there sometimes still. Here is what Lao Tzu gave me when I finally stopped reading him like a self-help book and started reading him like a friend who'd seen a lot. He is not teaching you something new. He is reminding you of something so old, so fundamental to what you are, that you forgot it was there. The river doesn't need to be taught to flow. The breath doesn't need to be taught to breathe. You don't need to be taught to rest. You already know. You have always known. Tonight, I hope the river reminded you. I hope the monk reminded you. I hope the cold and the stars and the particular quality of a Tibetan valley at 4 in the morning reminded you of something that no amount of trying could have told you. You are allowed to stop now, just for tonight, just for the length of this breath. That's enough, wanderer, that is more than enough. The river is still running. It ran while you slept, and it ran while you woke, and it ran while the monk crossed, and while the fire burned, and while the stars turned, and while the sky changed color through all its slow, remarkable colors, and it is running now, as your eyes grow heavy for the last time tonight. As the pre-dawn settles into its final stillness before the light, the river doesn't know you're listening. It doesn't need you to listen. It will sound exactly this way whether you are here or not, whether you are awake or asleep, whether you carry what you carry or learn over time to carry it differently. It runs because running is its nature. And your nature, right now in this moment, your nature is rest. Let your body be heavy. Let your hands stay open. Let your breath do what breath does without your help. The monastery is upstream, its lights dim now in the coming dawn, its monks beginning their first movements of the morning. Quiet feet on stone floors, the soft percussion of bells not yet rung, water being drawn, the day assembling itself in the old patient way of days that have been assembling themselves in this valley for longer than memory holds. You will walk there in the morning, you will arrive, and you will carry with you something from this night, not a solution, not an answer, but a feeling. The feeling of having been by the river in the dark and having let it be enough. The feeling of a conversation that said what needed to be said and stopped. The feeling of your own hands, open, in the firelight. That is yours now. Nobody can take it back. The boy who spent the summer in the mountains, he carried something home too. Not a story he could easily tell. Something quieter. Something that lived in the way he moved through rooms. The way he sat in silence without needing to fill it. The way he looked at things, water, light, other people, with the particular attention of someone who had learned, very young, that looking was enough. That looking was its own kind of arrival. You have been arriving all evening, with every breath, with every moment of simply being here without asking the here to be different. The river, the cold, the weight of your body against the earth, the warmth inside the sleeping bag, the sound that doesn't stop. Let these be the last things. Let them carry you the rest of the way, past the borderland, past the place where thoughts form and dissolve, into the deeper country where the body goes when it is finally, completely allowed to rest. The river runs on. The stars complete their slow turn. The valley holds its breath before the dawn. And you are the water. You are the stillness at the edge of the current. You are the breath in and out and in. Sleep now, wanderer. The river will be here when you wake.